The new Levo is a lot more full-on than previous models. It now takes the down just as seriously as the up, and having spent some time in the gym, is very much up for anything. Whether it be a seriously angular slant, a crushing descent, or some simple wild open spaces, it is a bike that has transported so many people into a whole new world of riding. Except there is absolutely no doubt that this is the biggest evolution the Levo has ever seen. Of course, the roots of this new Levo go way deeper. A bike that has its origins in the stump jumper, the rock hopper, the enduro, the Ebike. Except this bike really can hop rocks, jump stumps. An Ebike? I think so. Now I'm guessing you guys want to know, is this truly an all-new bike, or has it simply been a cosmetic exercise? Is it a case of beauty and brushstrokes, or are there some new brains in the business? Well, the simple answer is yes. There are 6 major changes to the new Levo. They are wheel size, geometry adjust, a motor update, Microtune and Mastermind, and the big one, which is changes to sizing. Let's have a look then at some of the detail. The new bike sees a mix of wheel size, 29 up front and 27.5 on the rear, which you could argue is hardly surprising given the recent trends on bikes. But if you cast your mind back, the first Levo had 3-inch tyres, it then moved to 2.8 before switching to 29-inch wheels in 2018. And this is just part of the story of refinement by the Swiss and Californians. So what of the 27.5 and 29-inch mix? Well, the smaller wheel is livelier and is complemented by shorter chainstays in certain geometry positions, which means an overall livelier ride. I suppose you could ask yourself the question, why didn't they just put a small rear wheel on the current bike?
So the reason we didn't just throw a small wheel in the old bike was because there's a lot more potential than just throwing a wheel in and calling it a day, right? When you have a smaller wheel, that gives you even more clearance for a shorter chainstay. With e-bike, full power e-bikes, especially having a big motor, it takes up a lot of chainstay space. Many people's chainstay lengths are artificially long, so if we're putting in a shorter wheel, that gives us a huge opportunity to shorten that chainstay and get a bigger performance benefit out of it than just doing a wheel itself.
There is more geometry adjustment than ever before. 3 different head angles. You can raise or lower the bottom bracket by 7mm, which in turn alters the chainstay length. But these options allow you to totally change the ride character of the bike. I was actually really concerned when I saw shorter chainstays on the marketing, because for me personally, I like a longer chainstay for climbing. Have no fear though, you can still choose longer or shorter. All the angles then on the Levo are different. The head angle, the wheelbase, reach, bottom bracket, and this is related to size changes, which we'll look at later. Many of you will be pleased to know that the new bike has increased in travel. It is now 150 rear and 160 up front with that big old fork. So the design, the linkage and the shock tune, the RX tune, has changed on the bike. So you now have supple for grip, that supported mid-stroke, and of course that strength in the tune for the G-outs. Specialized say there's also a better axle path. Rearwards at the first part of the travel, the part where most pedaling happens, which means increased speed and decreased hang-up on square edge hits. Right, so different wheel size, angles, and an increase in travel. What about the motor? Well, it seems Specialized really have done their homework. They've added a few more doors and gates and attempted to shut out the old enemy, water. But hey, this is Wales. The Levo has new belts which are wider with different material. It is also now controlled via Mastermind, which I'll talk about in a minute, and this affects how the power is delivered. There is new firmware which optimizes power delivery and the efficiency, making the bike smoother and even more natural. However, what do they actually mean by even more natural?
Well, for us, it's kind of two parts. Natural ride feel for any bike for us is like we want it to feel like an extension of your body, right? So almost like your right arm, you know. We want the bike to do what you want to do when you want to do it. So that aspect of it comes from geometry, kinematics, that kind of stuff, making the bike feel at one with the rider. The other half of it comes from the motor itself and all the work that Marco and Jan and the other guys have done in Switzerland on motor tuning really shows in that. And so we're not just throwing gobs of power at the rider right off the start. Since the start of Levo design, we've always wanted this to be a bike experience first, so feeling natural. And so we have a very smooth power delivery with our motor tune, which means you're not sliding out or losing traction when you're trying to start a steep climb. You know, it's controlled, concise, and like I said, very smooth power delivery.
Now this is big news and it's called Mastermind. Remember, it's not just a display, it is actually the brains of the new Levo. And it's how you, the bike, the motor and the battery interact. You've got great features with Mastermind. You can now see 1% incremental changes to the range. And also you can see your consumption, your watt hours per kilometer. It's all about energy conservation on the new Levo. There are over-the-air updates so that your bike gets better over time and is still integrated with mission control.
Well, the motor is most efficient around 75 cadence. So that's a pretty reasonable cadence. It does two things really. So there's a benefit for the motor because that's where it's most efficient. So you're getting the maximum amount of range out of it. But also going back to the, cycling experience first, that's a traditionally has been a very normal style cadence. It's not a gear mashing cadence at all. It's a lot more beneficial for your body to be going at a higher cadence than a lower cadence. You're not wearing out your knees and getting knee pain from being in too high of a gear. And that's one of the cool things about the Mastermind TCU too, is that you can display the cadence and know if you didn't know before what a cadence of 75 felt like, that you can see it right there in front of you and know when you're getting the optimal performance for your body, for one, but out of the motor as well for range.
Remember, you now have Microtune within this as well. What is it? Well, it's simply on the hoof adjustments. They call it on the fly, I don't know why. But basically, these are adjustments to peak power and support. And remember, on that display, you now have 4 choices and 30, yes, 30 different values. There is now a rider power value display, which shows how much you are putting in. This is particularly suited to mixed group riding. On first rides with friends, you can dial in the effort. There are no longer any big jumps in power anymore. In other words, you can be whatever athlete you want. All in all then, it's that personal experience that Microtune allows. Sizing is another major change on the new Levo. And in the inconsistent and, dare I say it, often incorrect world of bike sizing, Specialized have done away with the old inside leg measurement and introduced the S measurement, which is based more on your size and your style rather than this bit by here. Now, obviously, they've got the S measurement on the Kenevo and also the Enduro and the Stump Jumper bikes in their range. So it's an all-new approach. And also, there is now 6 sizes in the range, all with similar head tube and standover measurements. They say shorter bikes are more nimble and longer bikes more stable. I'm not really interested in that. I just want the right size. I just love this. Now, I've gone for the S4. Now, if you look at the sizing chart for Specialized, the S4 should be suitable for riders from 5'10" to 6'2", and I'm 6 foot, so bang in the middle. So there's a 477mm reach on this bike, and because over the years I've researched that number, that is for me the sweet spot. Would I want to change size? Absolutely not. I'm sticking with that one because it's bang on. Now, reliability was a talking point on previous Levos. However, they've improved the durability of the new Levo by the introduction of a new belt, which is wider and of a different material. And also you've got the waterproofness side of the business. Now, it was always a risk, it was always a bit of a worry for many people when they were washing their bikes. And as I mentioned earlier, you've now got some new gates and doors. So you flip that open, pop another secondary cover, and that gives you access to the motor charging port there. So that is significantly improved over the previous models, and no doubt it'll be a lot of peace of mind for many people. 6 major changes then to what is ultimately an all-new Levo. And appropriately, as the rain comes down, one final word, and that is that Specialized say this is one of the best sealed bikes they've ever made. Let us know your thoughts, folks, on the new 2022 Specialized Levo.